the end of today, for this session, we're going to have two panel sessions, both of which will be familiar to veterans of the Global Festival of Media. Our first panel will be organised by the WFA, and it features three of the world's largest and most influential advertisers. And then our second panel, Agency Jeopardy, features some of the world's largest and most influential agencies. And historically, there have been occasions when the advertisers panel, the WFA panel, has veered into what some people actually have thought rather unfairly called agency bashing. I think it would be much more accurate to say that it contained pointed and constructive criticisms of the way that agencies function. But this year, because of the way the timing works, if the WFA panel does come up with some interesting points of debate, we will have the agency titans on just a few minutes later, and perhaps they'll be able to work out some answers as part of the panel show structure. So I'd like, now that we've nearly got everyone in, I can see there's still a good solid flow. Yep, the thumbs up, everyone's now in. I'd like to introduce Rob Trebolo from the WFA to come up to the stage to explain the first panel. Rob, where are you? He's there.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. As you rightly pointed out, the last time I was on this stage I was talking to you about transparency in media trading, which possibly made me the least popular person in the festival last year, but this year we're going to be a little bit more collaborative. We're going to be talking about IMC, Integrated Marketing Communications. For those of you who are not aware, the WFA, we basically represent advertisers globally. So our members are made up of 55 national advertisers associations. We have quite a few of them here today. ABBA from Brazil, A&A from the US, UPA from Italy, ISBA in the UK. And in addition to those, we also represent 70 of the world's largest multinationals, and you're going to see 3 of those on the panel here today. So for those members, what we do is we organise, amongst other things, peer-to-peer groups, and our panel today is going to be a bit of a window, if you like, on one of those groups, which is our IMC Forum, which, as the name suggests, Integrated Marketing Communications. Just to clarify what we mean by IMC, this is not about taking all your money from TV and shifting it into shiny new platforms, or just about using more channels. This is really about ensuring your marketing activities are working together more effectively to ensure profitable growth and consistent brand behaviours as well. So what I'm going to do now is just take you through some results from the survey that we conducted in preparation for these 2 sessions. Thank you very much to the over 150 of you who responded to our survey, mostly agencies and advertisers. And I'm going to just have a look at the results from both, a similar format that we had last year. And then that's going to basically act as stimulus for our panel. So, first question you should be seeing behind me here. First statement, sorry, is integrated marketing communications is a priority for our organisation. Happily, 93% of agencies agreed, and 81% of advertisers. Actually, if that number was any lower, I probably would be looking for a new job. So that's good news. We know that IMC is important. And then the second one is advertisers talk about test and learn, but when times are tough, they revert back to the tried and tested. So this is us really saying, look, advertisers appreciate that sometimes there is room for improvement. So perhaps slightly self-effacing in some ways. And a large majority, again, of agencies, 92% agreed with that statement, 75% of advertisers did. And for those of you who work in our industry will know when times are tough, companies become more risk-averse, so perhaps not a huge shock. But one that is slightly more contentious, I think, advertisers aren't being honest when they ask for channel neutral. So channel neutral is often something, as many of you know, appears on briefs. And the majority of agencies, 51% saying that they agreed with that statement, and maybe slightly surprising, a third of our members actually saying they agreed with that as well. So that's not always exactly what they're looking for when they're asking for channel neutral. So there's room for improvement, and that's one of the reasons why ourselves and Naked Communications created something that we call the IMC Scorecard, which is basically a benchmarking tool that enables our members to rate how important they think the different elements of the IMC process are, and then how they feel they're performing, and then compare themselves to a pool. So those logos that I showed you at the start of this session. That infographic we've just released today, so hopefully some of my colleagues will be tweeting that, so you should be able to have a look at it at your leisure. I just wanted to highlight 3 gaps, the biggest gaps as identified by our members. So the companies represent about $32 billion who took part in that. First one is setting the right KPIs. So we heard from Ital this morning. I was talking about really understanding what you're measuring, what success looks like in relation to IMC. The second, very closely related to that, is demonstrating return on investment. So exactly understanding the return. So more simple, obviously, when you're looking at a more siloed approach, as maybe happened in yesteryear, but when you're looking at an integrated campaign, obviously much harder to demonstrate the return from that. And the third one that I'll share with you is more of a people issue, really. Obviously, if you have an IMC process in mind and you're trying to get your company to get full buy-in, especially for global organisations you're going to see today, kind of top-down buy-in is absolutely essential to assure adoption. So, enough of the, as I said, slightly self-effacing bit. Now we're just going to point out everyone else's faults as well. So, just to share some slides in relation to some results in relation to statements focusing more on agencies and media owners. So same format again, advertisers in red, agencies in green. First statement, it's confusing to understand which agency is responsible for what in the agency-client relationship. And 60% of agencies saying yes, they agree, that's true, and 47% of clients saying that's the case. Now, I think from an agency side, we'll probably be saying to, well actually, surely that's the client's role, external role sorts to understand who does what, but I think from the advertiser's perspective, we also hear, yes, but often there's a case where the water's being muddied and perhaps agencies not playing nicely together. But that's what our panel was going to focus on in a minute, so I'll leave them to comment on that. And the second one is, agencies are not set up the right way to be able to deliver, sell a truly integrated marketing plan. And this is the biggest gap that we saw between clients and their agency partners. 75% of advertisers agreeing with that statement, and 51% of agencies. So certainly from a client perspective, that's a real issue to be tackled. And I'm not saying these two are linked, but the penultimate statement is direct dealings between advertisers and media owners is set to increase. And we've heard a little bit about this earlier on today, haven't we? But 74% of advertisers saying yes, and 59% of agencies as well. But perhaps if any media owners in the room thought you were going to get away scot-free, not, I'm afraid. Media owners, the final one was media owners are not set up and organised to deliver new and different ways to connect with consumers. And pretty much the big majority of both groups saying yes, that's the case. So 75% agencies, 69% advertisers. So I think you can see from that there's plenty of room for improvement, frankly, from everyone involved in our industry, in our ecosystem. So I think relevant for the panel today. I'm just going to introduce them, and as I introduce them, they'll come up onto the stage. Gary Lim, he is the Regional Connections Director for Johnson & Johnson in Singapore, and also chairs our IMC forum that meets in Singapore. And he's come all the way from Singapore just for this panel today, so a very warm welcome to him. Gerhard Lohr, actually based in Bonn, but he hails from South Africa, so I'm taking a bit of a liberty there, pretending that he's travelled from South Africa. He hasn't. But he's international media for Deutsch Telekom, and is no stranger to this stage and has been up here in the past. Jeff Seeley is the Global Communications Planning Director from Unilever, and he chairs our IMC forum, which meets in London. And those are your 3Gs, your panellists for today, and the moderator, and again, very much not a stranger to this stage, Martin Albard, who led an excellent showcase session earlier today. Martin, before he set up his own consultancy, was the Global Connections Director at Anheuser-Busch InBev, before that with Coca-Cola, and has been very involved with the WFA. So please join me in welcoming them.
Good afternoon. We are here to have some hopefully lively debate and maybe even some controversy around some of the points that were raised earlier. Feel free to Twitter or to heckle. I'm going to launch a new term. I'm going to call it twackling. If nobody else has yet done that, then I'm going to register that as also twackling is my new terminology for Twitter heckling. I think we've seen plenty of that already going on. So we're looking forward to your comments. We're going to dive straight in because we're a little bit pressed for time. Fantastic panel here, very diverse in background, and we're going to go and ask a couple of questions and see where we get to in the conversation. The first question I want to ask the panel is going to focus on this whole idea that on the one hand it seems that everybody now has agreed that IMC is a really good idea and everybody has embraced that, but the findings suggest that advertisers and agencies agree to that. But at the same time, when push comes to shove, we saw that in the results, right? We're not really asking for channel neutral plans. We're being quite directive in saying, you know, we're hoping to achieve this, and so please make sure that you add this much television in these types of months, and then this much digital in those types of months. Amount of spend, amount of time, and so on and so forth. So my first question really is, why is that happening if we're so convinced that IMC is such a good idea, which suggests that we start channel neutral? Gary, do you want to take a first stab at it?
Well, I think it's a confluence of a few factors, and it all boils down to, I suppose, the corporate culture and how the corporate culture relates to risk. You've got brand managers here who are there for, what, 2+ years. They have stretch targets. They're not going to take the risk. They won't play it safe. Then there's data. You know, we just saw Rob talking about ROI. For traditional Media 360, there's a lot of data around that, but when you talk about IMC, especially in the new digital area and in social media, there's not much ROI information around that, so hard to make a decision. And the third part is that when you don't have supporting data and ROI information, how are you going to sell that to senior management? You know, they're not going to take the risk of with you saying, well, it's a nice to have, and it will generate this sort of sales, but I can't prove it.
Right. So Jeff, it seems a bit strange though that from the data that we saw earlier from Rob, it seems to say that the senior management has accepted it. So why might that be a tough sell to them? Are they equally risk averse as maybe some of the brand managers who have to change their job every 18 months?
I think there's definitely something in the fact that, you know, most of companies of our scale are big organisations and they're kind of machines and they run on cycles. So, you know, it's hard to convince someone, as Gary was saying, to poke their head above the parapet and say, I'm going to throw everything out that the companies have ever known about media, right, and try and do something different. I mean, there's a reason that we've been doing the same thing over and over for a long time, is because we know that it works. So I do wonder whether there's a bit of the definition has maybe slightly changed, or the nuance of what clients might mean by media neutral planning has slightly altered, because I think, you know, as businesses like ours, I'm sure most other advertisers have advanced in their internal media capabilities. I think advertisers who are just saying, give me a media neutral plan, are not the sort of informed advertisers who are actually going to make the right decisions. So, you know, we come from a very informed point of view, so the plans that we ask for are plans based on information that we have of what works. So, you know, we don't want something new for the sake of something showing new. We want something which is building on the learnings and knowledge that we've built up over time.
So are you better informed than your agency? Is that the conclusion?
I wouldn't say better informed, but we know what works. And I think it's about predicting the outcomes, and we know what the outcomes are. I do think that we are still, we still try new things. It's not that we say we're not going to try new things, and we just want to do what we've been doing all along. Because as we know, the world is changing. But I think it's also about making sure that the tried and tested methods are there, and that we deliver the results that the company expects us to do.
And so how do you then straddle this sort of maybe dichotomy or somewhat sort of two different things? On the one hand, wanting to evolve and revolutionize, or at least evolutionize your future, and the fact that you need to deliver results. So how do you, right? So the risk averse paired with wanting to take risk, or maybe even needing to take risk.
It's got, like I said before, it's got to do with the corporate culture. And you've got great companies like Google and a lot of digital companies that are willing to take some sort of risk, do some sort of test and learn to try out new areas. Whereas And maybe because they're in a great comfortable position to get sales. But a lot of companies aren't. They really have to deliver the bottom line.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
how do you strategize? Because you guys have done some interesting stuff, right? Which is not exactly run-of-the-mill sort of the risk-averse.
It's not risk-averse, but, you know, again, I don't think any of our companies grew by being totally risk-averse, but it's making educated risk or, you know, educated bets. So you don't just throw money into something just because it looks cool and someone from San Francisco's flown over to tell you about it. You evaluate what it is you're trying to achieve, the contribution that might make, and then you place your bets accordingly. So I don't think, you know, we're certainly not a risk-averse business. We're just a very educated business in the field of media, and we explore avenues that we think are going to drive our business harder than they might have done if we didn't do this. So, you know, I think there is a question of, if you're looking at risk-averseness, I think, you know, potentially across the world, advertisers could do more to release themselves in their own processes by which they make decisions on channels. So, to give the flexibility to take, you know, educated risk, because I think it would be fair to say it is difficult, for the reasons we were saying earlier, to convince a local brand manager to do something new when they don't have the evidence and their job's on the line.
Have you got what Facebook this morning, or I think Facebook and KitKat called, like, I can't remember exactly what they call it, like play money, right? So some risk budget or whatever. Do you guys have that?
Well, I would say we certainly tried a lot of things. I mean, if I look at how search has grown, for example, as a component of our total media mix, you know, you can read a lot of studies and hear a lot of people saying search works, but until you try it, until you use it, you're not going to see if it works. So you maybe call it play money or try out money, but I think it's all about business results, checking it, measuring it to see if it works, and then if it does, the investment will grow. And I think search is a classic example of something that it's working and therefore the investment grows.
Yeah, we have something called a digital venture fund, right? Especially to push the digital envelope, and where brands pitch for money, but it's a 50-50 split, and we do that globally. So I think that's been a great successful model. And they have to show us a plan, sort of like a lion's den type of game. Sorry, dragon's den, and then they have to show results after 12 months to make sure that they get the complete set of money.
And then when they go and get stuff, it doesn't get cut?
Yes, it doesn't get cut.
That's excellent. I like that. Very good. In relation to that, and moving on to the next question. So from the data, it also appears that there is still confusion about the role sort of between agencies, you know, and you all have various agencies, and that agency resources are not really up to scratch yet to deliver to IMC, and that is sort of like the biggest gap that you've seen in the data. Next, you see it already behind us, the agencies are going to be on the stage here, right, and playing agency Jeopardy. What is the one thing that you would tell the agency leadership that they could do to address it? Because the gap, right, between 75% of advertisers and 51% of agencies agree with that statement. What would you tell the agencies? What is the one thing that they could do to start addressing the gap and closing the gap so that they deliver actually what you're looking for? Maybe it was
Well, I think for us, one of the key parts is that the agency needs us to help reduce complexity. I think communication, business, marketing, call it what you want, is getting more and more complex. There's so many options, consumers, and consumer habits change. I mean, all the things that we do today makes life very complex. And I think that is a crucial part for the agencies to make sure that life gets easier, life gets more manageable, and that's about reducing complexity. So I would say they need to be better at that.
Jeff, what would be your message?
I think my message would be wholly about collaboration. I think it is a much more complicated market to navigate. And the analogy I always use is, 20 years ago, working in, operationalising your media was like managing a rock band. You had a drummer, a guitarist, a keyboard player, a singer, or whatever. And it's pretty easy. You just told them what to do, they go on stage and do it. But now it's much more like an orchestra. So You know, our brand managers have got a massive orchestra in front of them of people to, you know, social media analytics companies, creative agencies, digital agencies, media, PR, etc., etc. There's so many more instruments and levers for them to pull, and it's got much more complex. So we need to help them navigate our internals, but we need to know that there will be much greater sense of collaboration and just play nice, because it's tough. You know, I look at our brand managers and our brand directors trying to orchestrate and conduct this orchestra of millions and millions of players, and it's really hard.
And is it that we don't have good conductors, or do we have an unruly orchestra at our hands?
Well, I think unruly are outside. No, I think we can improve as conductors, and these are skill sets that our brand guys need to have. And I think that previously the media department in advertising companies was, you know, aligned to the finance guys, and now media is kind of front and centre of how our brands operate with their communications. So our brand teams are having to skill up really quickly in the ways of the world of media, which is why people like us exist inside the organisation. So,
all right. Are you the conductor?
No, but I help the conductors. Like for digital immigrants like me, you know, I recommend that for agencies, our existing partners and new partners, potentially new partners, especially in the new media area, you know, they have to sort of help the brands get educated. They show them how to play, and most importantly, they show them how to win. Once you can do those sort of things, the relationship's set, and then the conductor knows what role you have to play.
And then you pay them fairly for all of that.
Of course.
Of course. Okay. Very good. All right, we're going to the next part, which is this sort of agreement between both advertisers and agencies that direct media owner deals between advertisers and media owners will increase. There was a couple of interesting things about that. So first of all, it's interesting to see that both advertisers and agencies agree with that. So why do you think this is such a common agreed sort of point of view? Especially also if you think about it, because the agencies that agree with it are basically then saying, yeah, so our role of the traditional middleman is going to decrease and is going to be less important or less part of the equation.
I don't see it that way. I think that there is a great role for agencies. Like, you know, we like working with media vendors straight away, because speed to market. They have ideas, we probe their ideas, they give a response back, and we can say yes or no straight away.
And then the Kit Kat is in space 24 hours later.
Exactly, so that's a great example of it. But then also, like, the smarter clients will have their media partners with them to do the due diligence. You know, is it the right strategy? And also to stop us from having the shiny object syndrome, you know, when we get to see media vendors. So media agencies do have a strong role to play, and they're always sitting by our sides.
Okay. So how do you see the role of the agency evolving?
Well, I see it as a bit of a pointed question, because it's trying to suggest that agencies are getting cut out the loop, and I know certainly in our case, that's not how it is. Instead of being a linear with a middleman, it's just a three-way relationship now. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is that a lot of the products that are coming from digital companies are incredibly complex, so we need to, you know, we're all learning at the same time, and we need to understand the complexity of those products in order to be able to create for them. But I think the second point is that these are much more than just paid media platforms. They're not just places where we advertise. You know, in cases like, you know, something like Facebook, it's where our brand lives and breathes, and it has its personality. So it touches many other parts of the marketing cycle than just the media elements of it.
So are you saying, in other words, that a GRP was easy to understand by one guy, and then he could sort of deal with it, easy to sort of figure out how many he needed, whereas with this, there's a much bigger group of people that need to get involved to get it done?
The relationship with you know, a platform like Facebook, that will plug into our creative agency, our digital agency, PR agency, social agency, rather than our relationship potentially with, you know, a traditional media company from a few years ago would have been, we want to buy some TV, so we'll go to our agency and we'll buy it. And that can be a linear process. But
still sounds to me that the role of the traditional media agency within that mix then diminishes or becomes smaller relative to all the other parties that now also need a seat at the table?
I don't think it diminishes. It's just a bigger, more complex product that we're having to work with. So the media agency absolutely has, a fundamental role in how we navigate that product, but through the lens of what it looks like as a media platform. So rather than us expecting them to do the job of how we monetize fans or how we engage audience.
So Gareth, from middleman to seat at the table?
I think so. I think what's maybe also interesting, maybe that's a bit more of a controversial point, is that also the role of the agency in terms of a buying tool or as a buying in its buying role, maybe that is changing. Maybe it has to do with the fact that our procurement departments back home are very involved, very active. They want to have much more transparency. Sorry for the big word, because I know it's a big issue. And it was also addressed last year. And in this panel, there was a lot of discussion about transparency of prices, demand side platforms, real-time bidding, etc. So I think a lot of what I get from the procurement guys is there are a lot of question marks about the prices. So I think this is also a trend. That there's the role of the agency in its buying function is maybe questioned, maybe not by us as the marketers, but by our procurement colleagues, and therefore they want to get involved. They want to get to the guys who are actually selling the media space, and they want to get involved more in negotiations, in prices, and I think that's also a trend that is definitely driving this point that they're more direct deals.
So Gary, is your role then with different people within the agency than what your procurement people, the role that your procurement marketing people have with the agency? So is it really, you don't look at the buying anymore, and that is now handled by procurement, and you're doing more of the strategy part, the conducting part, or how is that evolving?
A bit of both. We definitely have to keep an eye on buying. But, I love strategy, and I love playing in the strategy area, coming up with a big idea. So, our ecosystem of agencies has increased a lot, like having research agencies. So we do have to make sure that they all sing the same tune and are going in the right direction. So I am continually spending more time with those agencies and just making sure that everybody plays nicely together. And then with the buying stuff, it's obviously with an eye on doing it. But our media agencies do all the buying process for us, not a procurement agency.
Mm-hmm. Is that similar to how Unilever is doing? Do you have procurement in all that?
Yeah, we have procurement.
Do you play nice with them, or do they play nice with you?
Absolutely. I mean, we're all on the same side. We're all trying to get the same result. I think, if I could distinguish between the two, if procurement are about the price, we're about the value. So we're trying to make sure that the decisions we make and that we advise our brand partners are based on the value that they're going to get from a particular structure of a commerce plan.
Okay. Any last words, Gert, on this point, or in general?
Well, I find it very interesting, just comparing this conference to the last conference last year, for example, and the year before, where it was all about this crazy new thing, or the shiny new thing, digital, and how it's going to change our lives. And I'm very happy to see that we've now moved on and see it as part of the mix, and we're talking about integrated communication to the role that the digital plays within the total mix. So it's not about one or the other, it's about the and effect, and I'm happy that we got to that point.
Well, I want to thank my panel here assembled today. As you can see on the screen, we have the infographic up, and you can download it for free and learn more at wfanet.org. Feel free to download it, share it, and hopefully take some learning away from it, and also hopefully took some learning away from the panel here. And it's been my pleasure hosting it, and we'll hand it over to the next team, which is going to be the agencies, and see if they agree or disagree, or have evolved their thinking on the basis of what you've heard today here from the panel. Thank you very much.
On television. Okay, was anyone here to witness the Agency Jeopardy session last year? Okay, so this is the sequel the second series of the session. What we've done is we've based a series of questions on the answers given by many of the World Federation of Advertisers surveys, and we're here to find out how closely correlated our media agencies are to some of the needs and insights and viewpoints of the international advertiser community. This is the chance for the advertisers to respond, the agencies to respond to some of the points made in this panel debate. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's play Jeopardy. Froze. Okay, can I please welcome up Ashish from Aegis Media. From Aegis Media, Southeast Asia. Come on up, Ashish. John Sintra, CEO of Starcom Australia and head of the Global Product Group of SMG. Sasha Savage, come on up, Sasha, CEO of USA. Who do we have here? We have Marco Bertozzi, MD. We have Vivaki. Come on, Marco. Up we come. Do I see Dominic Del Port, CEO of Havas Media? But certainly not least, who do we have? Steve Blakeman from Unilever Asia. Come on up. Okay. So, we're going to finish this session today with a quick fire, 3 rounds. Okay? Let's hit our wits against the questions from the World Federation of Advertisers. But first of all, let's have a little bit of a warm-up. Did I say the rules? I didn't. Rules are, buzz in first if you think you know the answer. It's a series of different questions. If you get it wrong, you're out. Okay, ready for the first question. Then someone else can buzz in. Do you understand? We're ready to go. It's 1 point for correct answer, nothing for no answer. You don't get penalised if you lose. There's no electrocution. It's all fine, okay? The winner gets an amazing prize, and let's go. First question, ladies and gentlemen, for the quickfire warm-up. Let's go. What was the most downloaded song on iTunes in 2012? Wow, Marco!
It happens to be my favourite song, Call Me Maybe.
Oh my goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause! He's right! Make sure you can see my Okay, next question. Facebook had one of the highest IPOs in US history when it debuted on the US stock market in 2012. But what was the original flotation value of the social networking firm? Was it A, 205, B, 104 billion, C, 80 billion, or D, 150 billion? Marco!
104.
Correct, ladies and gentlemen! This is very, very good. Okay, so it's 2-0. Are you ready, guys? You ready to buzz in? Is this a factor of generation? Are you the youngest member of the panel?
I doubt it.
Okay.
Steve King, is in my head.
Okay, let's see if you can do as well in question 3. The question is, ladies and gentlemen, who did Justin... John Sintras!
I'm embarrassed to even try and answer this. Selena Gomez.
Oh my goodness me, Selena Gomez! Although, the word on the street is that they're back together, and there we go. How do you know that, John?
Oh, I have young kids.
Right, okay. I think you don't harbour a little crush on the young American actress, do you? Thanks, okay. Okay, so that was, ladies and gentlemen, our warm-up round. Give them a round of applause! Okay, this is a test of memory as well as skill and knowledge, because you'll have heard this before. What percentage of clients think that direct dealings with media owners are set to increase? Is it Sasha Savage?
59%.
No. John Sintras?
75%.
Yes, indeed. Give him a round of applause. 75%. Now, what came out of the panel discussion was whether that was a threat or opportunity for the media buying world. Steve, what's your viewpoint on the increasing role that media owners are playing? I mean, we heard earlier Nestle saying they have Salesforce.com at the table, Facebook, Google. they seem to look at the partners in the same way as their media agencies. Is that a challenge for you guys?
I think in the previous session somebody mentioned that it was a three-way partnership. I think it's increasingly becoming that. Certainly that's what we're advocating. It has to be a triumvirate going forward.
Okay. Dominique, again, how are you moving your business model to sort of try and, instead of just being a partner that buys media, someone that can sit in a much more complicated ecosystem of partners?
I think it was another answer, which is about ICP and the way for us to be more integrated. So as Yannick explained it this morning, pushing forward integration between creative and media. That nice concept of Havas village. It's not the Gallic village of Asterix, it's not the village people, it's just something where everyone is under one single roof with one P&L, and it really delivers great added value. Because it's simple. People want simplicity, not boring organization structure.
Marco, you're very much an expert in the digital world. Do you think it's a big challenge for media agencies that they can't afford the talent coming out of the business schools and universities around the world that the Googles and the Facebooks now can? Is that a challenge you face?
I think now we're trying, as the world moves into more data and programmatic and so on, I think more than ever we're probably competing a little bit more with those companies to get talent. But they are very different organisations, and I think we're still, we're not still looking for the sort of top-end Google graduates that they would be employing, but we do want people that perhaps are now shifting more towards slightly more numeric data, mathematical end of the scale than perhaps we were even 2 or 3 years ago.
Ashish, would you describe Aegis Media as a digital business, a content business, or a media buyer?
Actually, none of those. I would say it's a business that's centered around the consumer and the client, but definitely it would include all of those. And going forward, more and more of that.
Okay. John, talking of relationships with media buyers, SMG has just done a global deal with Twitter. How much is that worth? Is it just simply a buying deal, or is there something a bit more sophisticated going on?
Well, I can't go into too many details about the commercial nature of it, but Twitter is now of a scale and cultural significance that we felt there was value for our clients to do the first upfront. So it's absolutely about first-to-market advantage, but it's about better understanding what Twitter's contributing in the first instance to the TV social experience and also real-time consumer understanding feeding into client campaigns.
There's still some debate over whether Twitter is a brand-building medium or whether it's a data deliverer to enhance brand understanding.
It's both.
You believe both?
And things we haven't even imagined yet. Can I just say on the earlier point?
Yeah.
We don't have a right to be at any table in terms of the media relationship with vendors. If agencies aren't adding value to the table, we shouldn't be at the table. So it is an agency's obligation to make sure they're one step ahead, and clients absolutely need them there. It's not our right.
Okay. Sasha, a related question. Have media agencies, which is obviously sounding like a very old term now, we've got to invent a new name for what we do, but have you cracked the remuneration problem when it comes to relationships between your clients and the media?
We're working on it. It's a complex question. We live in a world where media agencies are still largely judged by efficiencies they're delivering to clients on the buying side, especially in the big markets. In the US. All of us, we test in different models where actually it's not about price, it's about value. And value comes in many, many different ways. I mean, one of the questions that you had in your survey was test and learn. On one side, you can save money through volume and through negotiations. On the other side, I think clients sometimes can gain much more if they test new things, new technologies, and new ideas, a new way of thinking. So I'm seeing already some attempts in new business and with some existing clients to reframe model, remuneration model to be more value-based, which will then include also larger portion of payment being based on results and influence.
We keep saying that at every event, but do you see the percentage of that remuneration growing every year? Okay, interesting. Thank you very much, Emma. Let's move to our second question of the second round. Are we ready? Fingers on buzzers, please, gentlemen. Always wanted to say that. Okay, the question is, true or false? Don't jump in until I've finished the question. The majority of clients polled by the World Federation of Advertisers think that they will require the services of media agencies in 5 years' time. It's John's interest.
True.
It is true. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That's probably a relief, but it's probably no surprise, I guess, because the need, what you do is important. My question really is, first of all, to Steve, the relationship with creative agencies. Tell me a bit about how that's developing in this new digital marketplace.
I think increasingly the relationship with creative agencies, whether they are third party or part of the group, they're improving. I think it's been difficult over the course of the past 5 to 10 years. And actually one of the themes in the previous session, I think we kind of touched upon that as well, actually who's really at the heart of the decision-making process. And clearly the media agencies say we like to think that we are media first and all that. But I think we need to forge closer bonds. I think that spirit of partnership really doesn't exist in the way it should do. And even within group occasionally you do get that sibling rivalry. And it's actually easier, I think, sometimes to work with third-party agencies than it is to actually work with an agency within a group. It's strange enough. Would you agree?
Probably the relationship between creative and media was a bit like Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez, so back and forth. I think that what we try to operate is something radically different, because when we look at, we have one creative network, worldwide scale, and multi-awarded, and one media network. So we haven't to face the same multi-layer issue, and we need to find our solution because of that difference. And developing shared entities, like in the content production, let's take the example of the Havas Village in Paris, where we've got 100 people, journalists, producing content for TV, for broadband portal and so on. I mean, they are providing this service for both parts. So it has a middle office expertise center that can provide this for both parts. And again, I think that the gravity center is moving. I love the analogy with the rock band and the orchestra, and I think that we need definitely to manage differently the way for common clients we work together. But if we develop a seamless and simple one P&L approach, I think that we can avoid many problems and then create added value together. It's our path, so let's see how it works.
Marco, a lot's been talked today and out in the showcase areas about the power of data to understand consumers and the interactions between consumers and media. Do you think that the media agencies are in a good place to develop that knowledge and ultimately use the data to come out with better creative products than the traditional creatives do? You know, can you get base great creative on data insights as opposed to just simply being a great copywriter in the days gone by?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to say is, you know, there's a lot of focus on technology and data, and people obsess about those subject matters at the moment. At the heart of it, though, we're still talking about storytelling. We're talking about digital storytelling, and there are, you know, whether it's distribution of content, whether it's planning using data, there is a new skill set that you have to adopt. And I think, generally speaking, you know, the media agency community has moved pretty quickly in that space. When it comes to creative agencies, I still categorise them into sort of the older type, if we like, and then companies like Razorfish and Digistash within our group, who we would see, you know, working very closely with those guys because they're very much at the forefront. I think the bigger creative agencies have been slower to evolve. So I think the media agencies, the digital agencies are in a good space, but I think we need to sort of collaborate across the whole group to bring some of those other agencies up to speed.
And how does that collaboration happen? Is it the client that has to make that happen, grab different players within a group by the scruff of the neck, or can the organisation evolve and you know, respond to that demand?
Well, I think the onus is probably more on the organisation to bring skill sets up to pace, but then the likes of Vivaki, the whole premise of Vivaki was bringing together different agencies and Publicis Group as a whole. The whole idea is we're collaborating. The view that one agency can do it all, I think is kind of outdated now, and I think we all have to realise that working amongst our community of agencies is the way forward. With that comes teething problems and a little bit of growing pains, but as long as you sort of stick with that premise, then I think we can all develop together.
Thank you. Sasha, a question to you. You've recently launched the Beyond Advertising concept, which seems to sort of try and stretch MediaCom into a new territory. It looks rather like a creative agency. Can you explain a bit about how that's going and what sort of things you've done for clients with this proposition?
So, we launched the US MediaCom Beyond Advertising last year. It's divisions that exist around the world, and I think it's a little bit different if I compare it to similar entities in other agencies. I think what we try to do is to merge science and creativity. So not just to get back to clients with great ideas, because it's relatively easy to have a good idea, but the question is how you're going to distribute that. Does it make sense for a given brand at a given time for a particular audience? So our model is really kind of merging technology understanding driven by data.
Discuss the many issues that have come out of this today. It is about digital and integrated, but we'll talk mainly about digital. This is a true or false answer, so it's a really quickie, but you can only do it when I've finished the sentence. Okay? Are you ready? True or false? Watch them, ladies and gentlemen. True or false? The majority of advertisers think that their own digital capabilities are under-resourced. Dominique?
True.
It is true. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. 66% of clients themselves said they just don't have the capabilities in digital and data. Is that a surprise to you?
No, because I think that there is that learning curve that is completely shaped by that innovation process. That is every month something new. And you need to define what is just a small trend or something that is structural. And when we talk about the social space, there's a lot of doubts, even with the Facebook valuation and so on. But I mean, they will never come back. So it's massive. And now it's disrupt not only the media sphere, but the ecosystem and the business model of each. I mean, the Tao presentation and Tesco, and it's business that are transformed by the social movement and digital and innovation capabilities. So from retail, automotive, the way people behave, people consume, and the way they buy things will dramatically change, especially for the millennial. And I think that if we don't look at that, I think that we won't get it. It's beyond media, dramatically for all of us.
Steve, everyone's been talking today about mobile, and we saw some insights from Zenith earlier just about the amount of spend, how it's just incredibly low compared to the amount of usage and time, obviously, we have with our handsets. Do you think that your organisation is doing enough to bring clients into the mobile age?
Yes, we are. We're certainly within Asia Pacific. We've launched our mobile advertising division in the past 12 months. It's beginning to yield results already. Are we doing enough as an industry? No, I don't think we are. I think we need to drive it forward and accelerate it much faster than we've done so far. I still find it extraordinary as well that we're not moving faster towards digital. When you look at those spends today, and I think the comment that was made that actually was pretty global. I think that was US figures, if I remember correctly. But I think that's pretty standard around the world. And we've got to do more. Clients have got to be braver, and we've got to give them more options as well.
Okay, thank you very much. John, the same question to you. Bringing clients into the mobile world, do you think you're doing it fast enough?
We're trying to, but it's not happening anywhere near as fast as we need to. I'm constantly surprised.
Why not?
Just too difficult. Even simple things like M-sites, the number of clients that still haven't adapted their sites to be accessible on mobile was really quite astounding. And you'd think that was cost of entry in today's world.
Sasha?
I think one of the barriers is also content. I think listening to Nestle today, presentation from Nestle, I mean, creative agencies, they also need to realize that something that works on TV or big screen not necessarily works on small screen. So reality is that mobile is very much about real-time content now, Now, if you have your internal process which prescribed that to approve something on the content side it's going to take 3 months, there is nothing much about real time if it takes 3 months to create something that will work. So I think it's about resources on one side, but also it just costs more. I mean, it's more requirements, more budget needed to create assets for.
Are the clients willing to pay?
They say they are, but we've seen that mobile, it's kind of one of the test and learn projects usually get cut before it gets executed.
Ashish, you just obviously many years ago were quite pioneering in their acquisitions in terms of digital agents and so on, and iProspect and in search and so on. But where next? Where do you feel, for your strategy, the next frontier of digital is going to be? Where you'll be spending more Aegis money and more of your time?
I think there is going to be a lot more emphasis on mobile, continuing the same trend which you were just asking. But I think the amount of numbers of mobiles is what we've been chasing. But I don't think as an industry we've really learned how to monetize it right. And I don't think we've learned to educate our clients well enough what all they can do for it. And definitely I think that's an area where all agencies are going to focus a lot more in the next maybe 12 to 14 months.
Thank you very much. Okay, we've got time for the final question, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready? Fingers on buzzers, please. And here it is. What percentage of brand managers claim to be very confident in their knowledge of DSPs and programmatic buying? My goodness me, Marco.
Whatever the smallest number is.
Reveal the answers. No! It's Steve Blakeman.
I'm going for D, less than 10%.
You are right, you were both right, but you buzzed in too early. Round of applause to Steve Blakeman, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, but Marco, because of that, I'm going to give you the first question. You've recently done a very interesting deal with DoubleClick. Can you explain how that works?
Well, it's less
in one sentence.
No, we partnered with DoubleClick in this whole real-time space. Our partnership goes back many years, so it's not necessarily a recent thing, but this is really just about the evolution of digital buying away from buying up front, seeing what's working and evaluating afterwards, to making that decision in the moment and knowing who your consumers are buying. So avoiding wastage, better targeting and so on.
Okay, in one word answer please, just quickly around the panel, ladies and gentlemen. From you first, Steve. Just tell me, are clients justified, yes or no, in worrying about DSPs when it comes to arbitrage and the transparency of the systems you're selling to through your trading desks? Are they right to be worried? Yes. Okay, Dominique?
Yes, I think that we need to train them because it's completely new. And we jump from media planning to audience planning. So I think that we need more and more to talk and explain and open books.
Do you think there's justified concerns in this new era of programmatic?
You want it more red? I don't think so, because I think the advertisers are working with agencies in normal fashion, and trading desks are just another media option that have to either perform or not. And it's up to the agency, it's up to the advertiser and the trading desk to make sure everyone's happy with the measures.
Clients right to be worried?
As long as agencies are partnering with the clients to create and design trading desks, no.
Okay.
Clients should be asking the right questions to make sure they have a level of comfort about transparency and what value they're getting out of it.
And financially?
Not at all. I think they need to be excited, but I think they need to understand it a lot more, and we need to explain it much better.
Okay, thank you very much. Time's beaten this, ladies and gentlemen. Could you please give a huge round of applause for that? As you probably know, Steve King, the CEO of Zenith, won it last year. He won a car, which we're very pleased about. Can we please reveal the final scores, ladies and gentlemen? Ladies and gentlemen, it's John Sintras who's the winner of Jeopardy. It's an amazing prize. It was a car last year. John just won a helicopter. He's won a helicopter! Sorry. Thank you very much for being good sports, guys. Really appreciated. One final round of applause for those of you.
I like Steve King.